Hi everyone, and welcome to the SaturdayMP show. At least that's what we're going to call it for now, until I can think of a better name. My name is Chris, and I'm a software consultant for Saturday Morning Productions, hence the SaturdayMP abbreviation. And I help companies ship secure, high-quality code faster. So if you need a hand with that, feel free to reach out to me. I can be reached at our website. All the contact information's on our website at SaturdayMP.com. And then if you do have a question, so the show, I think it's just going to highlight some of the ways you can make your code more secure, get it out the door faster, and just kind of behind the scenes about what a software consultant like myself does. So if you have any questions, feel free to send them to me, and maybe I'll answer them in a future video. So questions can be sent to ask, A-S-K, at SaturdayMP.com. So that's SaturdayMP.com, C-O-M. All right, so for today's video, which is actually on June 4th, it's a Sunday, so we're going to try, we're not going to try, we're going to set up kind of a Docker development environment for the standard Ruby project. And the reason I want to do that is because several years ago, I created a PR for the standard project, which I guess I should outline what the standard project does. So first of all, the standard Ruby project is a linter for Ruby projects. So linting is when a linter is like a tool that'll analyze your source code and kind of tell you when you have formatting errors, like you're not properly indenting the source code. You don't, you have too many new lines, not enough new lines. Maybe your methods are big or your files sizes are too big, stuff like that. And it's just an automated tool that you can run on your source code, and it's really good when you include it as part of your build process, just to catch any errors and make sure everyone on the team has the same. The files all look the same. Someone's not coding with indenting their code with 4 spaces, and someone else is indenting it by 2. So this way you can just kind of standardize it. And the reason I really like the standard Ruby project is, like they said, they have unconfigurable options. Well, you can kind of configure some things, I believe, but they have a bunch of default rules that they've said these are how you should write a Ruby project. This is how a Ruby file code should look. And I really like a lot of their rules, their default rules. And it sits on top of Rubocop. Let's see, do they have a link to Rubocop? Oh yeah, there, right here. So let me open that there. Open it over here. So it sits on top of Rubocop, which was an existing linter, but it didn't have, Rubocop had some default rules, but I found them very restrictive and I didn't like them. So everyone ended up kind of tweaking their own, customizing their own Rubocop file, and none of the files were the same. And they were very restrictive. Like, I think they had limits of a method could only be like 10 lines long or something like that. And real restrictive file length lines, stuff like that I just didn't agree with, and I would always have to tweak and change. So Rubocop's a great linter. I just found the default rules really restrictive, and then you had to customize it and create your own all the time, which is a big pain in the butt. Where standard, where's their README file? There we go. Just open this up. Where standard has a bunch of built-in defaults that I really agree with. And if the ones I don't agree with are just kind of minor, so I don't really care. And it just works really well. So I was really happy with it. But several years ago, I work a lot on existing older projects. And the problem when you introduce a linter to an existing project is it's going to fail with a bunch of errors because the old project probably isn't following those coding standards. So standard actually has a way to automatically fix a bunch of issues, syntax issues. But that's always kind of scary. Like, you have an existing project that you just inherited, and if you run the fix command on it, it might fix like 100 files. And a lot of times these old projects didn't have a lot of tests. So it was very, very scary to make changes to like say 100 files with little to no automated tests and hope that everything worked, right? You're probably going to break something. So the way Rubocop and other linters get around that issue, if you want to introduce linting to an existing project, is have a to-do file. So just a file that lists all the it's a file that lists all the linting errors that were found, and just tells the linter you can ignore these while they're in the to-do. And the idea is that developers will go into that to-do file when they make changes and fix those issues in the to-do. So Rubocop, let's see, where's their, does it even talk about their to-do here? Anyway, they have, I don't know where their documentation is, but they have one. So I've created a pull request for standard way back, when did I do this one? In 2019, to create a to-do file for standard, which really helped me in my work. And they were kind enough to accept it after some back and forth and some great tweaks to it. So now it's accepted in there. So if you have an existing project and you want to apply the standard linter to it, you can run, where is the to-do? This is ignoring in global. Oh, right, down here. So this is the command here. Yeah, so they recommend doing the auto fixable errors. So that's something you could try, but again, if you inherit an old legacy project and it doesn't have a lot of tests and this auto fix is going to make a bunch of changes, theoretically they shouldn't break anything, but I don't know, that still sounds pretty risky to me. So you could generate the to-do just using the -- generate to-do. And that will create a to-do file, and then as you go in and make changes to code, like you're enhancing, like you inherited this legacy project, probably because you need to make changes to it, you need to update something, you need to upgrade some dependencies or whatever. Anytime you make changes to it, you go and hopefully fix some of these issues in the to-do. All right, so that's what I did many years ago. And just recently, someone pointed out an issue with the to-do file. I haven't worked with the standard on the standard project in quite a while. Like, I don't do a lot of active development. I just kind of added the to-do file and then disappeared. And other people maintain, the serials and I can't remember there's a company behind standard. Testable, that's what it is. So they're the ones that maintain it, and a bunch of these other tools. So they also have the standard Rails that I haven't tried yet. This is relatively new. I have to try this out. So that'll be a nice experiment with that and see if that works. But anyway, someone added a bug for the to-do that if there's an already a to-do file and then you run generate to-do again, it doesn't properly ignore all when it creates the new to-do file, it doesn't ignore all the errors in the previous to-do file. It doesn't add them to the new to-do file. So we have some ideas about what the problem might be. But yeah, so I was going to take a look and try and figure out what the actual problem was and maybe create a PR for a fix here, unless someone else beats me to it. So, but the first thing I need to do, and kind of the whole purpose of this video, is to create a development environment to actually run the standard application. And the standard application is just, it's not actual code, it's just a gem. It's a Ruby gem. So it's like for those that aren't familiar, it's like a third-party library, like a NuGet package, or a PyPy package, or an NPM package. In a Ruby environment, they're called gems. So this is kind of this is where it defines the gem down here in the gem spec. And then, so you would add this, you would just include this third-party package in your application, right? Just using the gem file so there's the gem, so you can add it to your existing project, or just to your machine, and then run the commands to do the linting for you. So yeah, but we need a way to run this. So we won't run like an application, but we can run all the tests, and we just need a way to debug this sucker if we're going to be making changes to it. So one thing I don't actually have, I'll just create a terminal here. So I don't have like Ruby installed on my system, and I really don't want to install Ruby because I'm a software consultant. I tend to have lots of different clients, and I don't like to pollute my operating system with a bunch of different versions of Ruby or PHP or .NET or whatever the heck the client's using. So I'm a huge fan of using Docker. So I have Docker Desktop installed. Oh, this is Docker Desktop for Linux, and sometimes it gets stuck in this loop here. So I can't actually, Docker's actually running, but I hope it's running. Let's see. Yeah, so okay, yeah, it's all running fine. But sometimes for some reason the desktop version on Linux, like I'm running Ubuntu 22.04 here, gets stuck for some reason. So, but anyway, I like to work mostly out of Docker containers when I do my development. So I know I could install Ruby using, for those that aren't familiar, there's a couple different ways to install Ruby. You can use the Linux package managers, but there's also the Ruby version manager, RVM, which lets you install different versions of Ruby. So I could set that up. There's Ruby env, which stands for, I think, Ruby environment. I don't even think this one has a web page. It's just a GitHub repo. RBENV, yeah, Ruby environment. They don't even say what it stands for. But anyway, like I've used both of these in the past, and they work just fine. But again, less things I have to set up on my local machine, the better. So what I'm going to show for this video is just how to set up a Docker environment to work for standard here. And this is kind of a nice one because it's going to be a very simple Docker environment. It's like a lot simpler than a Rails application. We don't have to set up a database or anything like that. We just basically need a Ruby Docker environment, and that's about it. So, and I guess full disclosure, I did kind of play around with this a bit before I recorded this video. So I'm hoping in the future I'll just record videos of me just kind of fumbling around, see how actual good they are. But this one I tried it first already, so it should go a little smoother than. So if you're thinking like, wow, how does he know so much? It's because I've already done this once. All right, so to start with, I don't think there's a requirement because this is a gem. Is there a version of Ruby? So we just need a Ruby version. Oh, where did I go? There we go. So we need a Ruby version of at least greater than 2.6.0, and I think standard will run on any. Like I don't see anything. Like there's no reason it shouldn't run on any Ruby version. Right, okay, so let's just grab the latest. Let's find out what is the latest. I think it's 3.1 right now. So if we look at the Ruby images on Docker Hub, that's fine. I reject it. So this is 3.3's preview. Oh, it's 3.2. Okay. So we can use Ruby 3.2, I think is what we'll install, 3.2.2. And I don't see any reason why we couldn't use an Alpine Docker image. We would either use that or maybe one of the slim, like Slim Bullseye or something like that. But the reason I like Alpine Docker images, so the Bullseye and what's the other one, Buster, these are all based off of Debian. But the reason I like the Alpine one is it's just nice and small, and we don't need. So for this Docker image, because it's a gem, and we don't have to match a production environment. I'm just going to try and pick the smallest, simplest Docker image to work with. Whereas if this was, say, a Rails application and it was already installed in an environment that had that was using like say Debian or something like that, then I might pick like Bullseye or Buster or an image that matched the production environment a little closer. But in this case, yeah, I think we're just going to try Alpine, and we might as well try the latest version of Alpine, 3.2.2. Okay, so let's go back here. So the first thing we want to do for a Docker, so we're going to create our Docker file, and we need the image we're going to base it off of. So we're going to start with from, and then our base image is going to be, I think it's just Ruby. So because I work in a lot of different environments with different clients, I'm kind of a generalist, and I don't, yeah, just Ruby. I haven't memorized, and I'm pretty bad at memorizing things. I tend not to memorize a lot of stuff. I just kind of know that things exist, but I have to often go look what the actual command is. So we want Ruby, and then we wanted 3.2.2 Alpine. Oh, thank you for 3.18. I think was the latest one, right? No reason shouldn't take that. So 3.18. Great. So that's set up. And the other thing we're just going to set up here too is, well, let's just start with this. We'll just go one step at a time. So this is our basic Docker image here. And I also, that just is to install Ruby. So this is Ruby 3.2.2 on Alpine 3.18. And the other thing I like to do is, well, what's the best way to show people this? I guess we could just run it now. So if we did, yeah, no, I'm going to set up, I always like to set up a Docker Compose file, so just do that. So we have our Docker file, and then we're also going to have this Docker Compose file here. So this Docker file is what our environment that we're going to run in, and Docker Compose just has a, usually we use it to bring up several Docker containers at once and coordinate the communication between them. So in a Rails app, you would have, say, your Docker, your Ruby Docker container that you install the Rails app in, say like Ruby 3.1 or something. And then you install your gems and your Rails application there, and then you'll have a second environment that probably has your database image, say like Postgres or something like that. And then you might have a third Docker container that has Redis if you're using a Redis container as well. And Docker Compose will just let you synchronize between the three and just let you kind of run one command and say that the web application depends on Redis and it depends on the database. So when I start the web container, bring up the Redis container and the database container and all that stuff. But in our particular case, we're not going to need any of those secondary ones. I don't think, at least. So, but I still like using Docker Compose. I find it makes my life a lot easier. The commands, like running Docker commands are right. There's no easy way to tell, like when you run a Docker command to map like a volume, you have to do that every time you run the command. Where Docker Compose, you can kind of configure things like volumes and ports and stuff that it should open. So, okay, so in our case, we want, So we're going to define services. So these are each one of our containers that we want, or images that we want. The first one, we'll just call it app. And then, okay, so now again, see, I can never remember. I did this once before, but I deleted everything. So let's go. So I have a bunch. So we're going to cheat. We're going to look at an existing one that I've done up for. This is like Rails 7 template I created a while ago. So again, so this is a good example where you can see that we have two services, we have a database, and we have a web. So this is a Postgres database, and this is the actual Rails application. Okay, right, so we want build, and we'll have to set our volumes, which will be very similar to this, and then we have to open ports. Because I like to use, I have Visual Studio in the background right now, but I do like to use RubyMine, so we have to open ports for RubyMine. I don't think we need this port 3000 because it's just a gem. So, okay, so let's just, so build, so this build dot means find the Docker file in the same folder as the Docker compose, and it's going to build that one. So that's this guy here. And then I do like to set up some volumes, and the reason to do this is that this first volume is take everything in the root folder here, like all these files, and map them inside the Docker container in a folder called /app at the root of the Docker container. And this can be any place you want. I just kind of like to use .app. I think that's the default that some of the first examples when I started using Docker put, so I just followed it. But you could put like wherever, like home/app or wherever you wanted to. So, okay, so let's put it in there. Again, we don't have to put it in a particular place because we don't have Nginx, like we're not running a web server or anything. So, and this one I want to user. So what this one is, so this first one is mapping a host folder to the Docker folder. The second one is using a Docker volume that we're going to call bundle volume. And it's going to map to this folder inside the Docker container. And the reason I like to map all the bundle directory is when I destroy this container, if I want to drop it and recreate it, it's going to save all the gems that I've downloaded and installed in this volume. So I don't have to install them all the time. And that's often for a Rails application and other applications as well. Kind of downloading and reinstalling all the third-party packages can consume a lot of time. So, oops, ports. So we don't need port 3000, but I am going to set up the RubyMine port. That's for the RubyMine debugging gem. And the last thing we want or need is we have to define, so we created a volume up there. We have to bundle volume. So we just have to list it down here. We have to, here's the volume, and then for whatever reason we actually have to define it down here. Because I think you can define multiple, like you can define this volume in a different service. But this is kind of just telling the Docker Compose that you're going to create a volume called bundle volume, and it's just going to be used here. Okay, so cool. It's all set up. So now we should be able to go Docker Compose build. Actually, what I'm going to do, I'm just going to make sure all Docker system. I'm just cleaning up any existing containers on here, just because I wanted to show this from scratch. But like I said, I did muck around with this a little bit a couple days ago. So I'm just clearing off all the existing Docker containers and images and volumes and everything I had installed. So that's kind of a risky, so because I'm actually this Ubuntu that I'm working on is a virtual machine. So I can clear all the Docker images and volumes and stuff off of it because I know I only have a limited amount of them on here. If you have other images or containers that you're using and you did that prune command like this one, that's going to get rid of everything. So that could be bad for you. You might not want to do it. You might just want to prune individual or delete individual ones, individual containers or images or something like that. Okay. So in my case, I can delete everything. I don't care. And then we can do Docker Compose build. Oh, volumes must be a mapping. Oh, what did I mess up there? So I have volumes. Oh, for whatever reason, this needs to be a colon at the end here. All right, there we go. So because I cleared everything, it's not going to find the Alpine Docker image on there. So if I scroll up here, you can see it downloaded it, and it's nice. The Alpine image is nice and small, like it's what, 31 meg. So it's super fast, super quick to download, super lightweight, which is nice. A lot of the other Docker images could take up hundreds of megs. So if you are using Docker, one of the problems people encounter, especially if they're using it on a laptop, is if they have a small hard drive, your Docker containers and images will eat up a bunch of your hard drive space really fast. Unfortunately, I'm working on a desktop with a big hard drive and lots of room. Okay, so that's all set up. So let's just run this and see what happens. So I'm going to run the container. The ARM is just I'm going to remove the container as soon as I'm done with it. So that'll remove the container, but it won't remove the volume, which is good. Not that we're installing any gems or anything right now. I just want to poke around a bit. And the container I want to run is app, and the command I want to run, because I'm running Alpine, I want to run sh instead of bash. So let's go inside there. All right, there we go. And there's our app folder. And there you can see all the files inside our Docker container. So this is inside the Docker container, but that volume map, this top one here, mapped the host folder to the inside the Docker one. So great, that's looking good. Now, so that's all set up and working. So the next thing we want to do is do a bundle install. And what's the, so you could run it inside the container here. But what I like to do, just to make my life a little easier, we could do bundle install. I guess I'll just show it and just cancel it. Oh, getting an error here. No such no such file directory git. Right, okay. I did this before and I totally forgot about it. So the first thing you'll notice is I can't run bundle install, and it's because it's expecting git, but because this image is so small, we don't have git installed in it. So let's go back to our actual Docker file. And let's run apk. So this is Alpine, so the package manager is apk. Oh, and if you see all this stuff appearing, it's because I have GitHub Copilot down here. And that's that AI coding engine. So it's making suggestions for me. But I don't want to install. It looks like it's as if you're setting up a node. I guess it's quite common. Say if a node. A node environment. So in our case, actually we want to run apk update. Is that what it is? APK update. Yeah. Let's run apk update, and then we'll run apk upgrade, and then apk add, no cache git. And we don't need all that other stuff. I think we just need git. So I think that'll fix our problem. So let's just test that it fixes our problem. So we just did apk add git, and then we did bundle install. Yeah, there we go. Well, that was pretty fast. Okay. So that'll fix it, but we need to test it again. So we have that in our image, but because we ran that container, we removed it. If we go back in here, git won't be installed, right? Because when we run this command a second time, it's going to create us a new image because we removed the previous one, or sorry, container, because it removed the previous one. So let's get that into our image, so all our containers will have git installed in them. So let's clear the page there. And what was the next thing I was going to do? Oh yeah, I was going to do let's do docker close down, and we'll just get rid of our volumes, and then let's build it again. All right, so there it goes. Now it's updating. So it ran the apk command, so it looks like installed git. So let's see if it actually did it. All right, there we go. We got git installed. Awesome. Now, if we did bundle install, oh, I have to be in the app folder. So it's a couple other things we'll fix here real quick. There we go. Looks like it's all fetching, installing, bundler, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so it looks like it works. Great. So a couple other things we're going to do is we're going to switch our I'm going to make an app directory. Can I do it that way? Is there a make dir command? Maybe I have to do a run. Oh, I have to do run. Okay. So run is basically just telling Docker just run this Linux command inside the container. In our case, we want to make app folder, and we want to set the working directory to it because I don't think. So technically, this inside the Docker Compose, it's going to create this app folder if it doesn't exist already. But I don't think you can set a working directory. Oh, actually, can we set? I wonder if we can set a working directory in Docker Compose. Oh, that's a good question. Oh, here, I guess might as well see this too. Working directory. Oh. Compose file. There we are, the compose file. I think this is what I want. So in the services, can we set a working? Oh yeah, there it is, working directory. Awesome. Oh, okay. So let's just set that in our Docker Compose. So if we were actually publishing this Docker container to production or something, we'd want to put the working directory and stuff in there. But because we're just using it for development, let's just set it in here. So working dir, I'm assuming I can just do this /app. Huh. Let's try that. Seems like it worked. Oh yeah, look, right on. We're in the app folder right off the bat. That's great. Oh yeah, okay, so the last thing I was going to do is, just so we don't have to remember to install, run bundle install every time, I'm going to create an entry point. Well, let's see, in this case, yeah, I got to create an entry point. Docker entry.sh. And in this one, we're just going to do bundle check, bundle install. Oh, how did I set this up before? So again, I can never remember all these commands. So let's go take a look. How I set that up in my Rails 7 template. Sorry, I have the Docker entry point. Oh, so I don't have it here. I have an old way I used to do it. It's not what I want. Okay, so I haven't updated that template in a bit. And then let's do bundle clean force. So basically we're going to check to see if all the bundle gems are installed. If not, install them and then clean them. And I think that's the commands I want. So let's just check that again. Bundle check. What does that say? Okay. Bundle install, and then bundle clean force. Yeah, okay. So we're just going to put that all in there. And then in my Docker Compose, I'm going to put an entry point here. It's going to be docker entry point .sh. Perfect. And I do have to so I have to change mod docker plus x docker entry point. Make that executable. Okay, let's see if that works now. Let's just drop everything again and just do a quick test. And then, so that's a Docker Compose down doesn't actually drop. It just drops the containers, not the actual images, and the -v will drop the volumes. So, but I think once we're done, we'll test it by dropping everything, including the images. So, let's see if this works. So that's okay. So the Docker entry point doesn't actually get run until you actually run the container. It doesn't happen during the build. The other reason we want to do everything instead of the Docker file, we don't want to install the gems and everything here, is because we want them stored in this volume. But this volume doesn't exist during the build process. So if you installed all the gems here, you would just install them in the local Docker container, but then they would have to get installed again into this actual volume. So again, unless you're creating this for production, there's no point in in doing a Docker install here. So, all right, so that's set up. So we have the entry point. I don't think we need to do, oh, we do need to do, sorry, there's one other thing we need to add. So you're going to notice at the bottom of all the Docker entry points, oh, I guess we should, this is a bash file, so we should set up this. And then the other one you want to do is, at the entry point, you want to tell it to run the commands. In our case, it's usually sh. So this is going to run the bundle to install everything. And then this is actually going to run our sh or whatever command we gave it. So run app sh. Let's see if this works. Docker entry point not found in path. Did I Docker entry point .sh? There's app Docker. Oh, I think I have to do this. Yeah, there we go. So for whatever reason, the working, when you specify an entry point, it doesn't actually apply. The working directory doesn't apply to entry points. You have to always put the whole path in there. I've been burnt by that before, so if anyone runs into that problem, that's why. All right, so it looked like it worked, like it installed. If we go all the way to the top, so this is the bundler check. You know, nothing's installed, everything failed. So then it installs all the gems. And right, and then I do need to change. I think this needs to be an and here. Right, because I want to check. If there's no check, then do the install and then force. Right, so if I exit this and we run it again, it should say the check passes, so it shouldn't do anything else. Yeah, the gem files are satisfied. That's great. Now if we down -v. So we got rid of that volume right here, right? So this will force them all to be installed again, but I want it to run the clean command after it installs everything. Oh, this bundle clean force doesn't spit out anything. Okay, so yeah, but I do need the and there instead of the or, I'm pretty sure. Yeah. Alright, but anyway, that all looks like it's working. So now we have everything in there, and we're in the app folder. So kind of a quick way to test it is to run the automated tests. So standard has a bunch of tests, I know, because I edited them when I edited the ignore file. Are they just using unit tests? So I think if I just rig, what does their rig file look like? Oh yeah, okay, good. Their default command is to run, or the default rake command is to run the test. So if I just go rake, it should run all the tests, and let's see if these all pass. So this is the other thing. Now that it looks like the Docker file is running, when we run the test, something else might fail. The two times you'll find your Docker file might fail is when you're installing the gems, they might require some sort of other library to be installed. So one reason we might not have used Alpine is some of the gems require like C++ or other kind of standard, what is that? Standard lib libraries in Ubuntu. And getting that to run in Alpine can be a bit of a pain, so then we would switch back to a Debian-based Linux container. But sometimes, other times, you just need, like if you have MySQL gem, you might need a MySQL library client or library installed here. The other time you might have to go back and edit your Docker file and you think everything's working is when it runs a test and it runs into a problem. So say like it's using some image processing and you need ImageMagick or something. The application uses like ImageMagick, and then you have to go into your Docker file and add ImageMagick. So, but it looks like all the tests are passing. Warning: all cops doesn't support nuts parameter. that's awesome. I guess it does support fruit. Okay. Warning: does not. I'm assuming these are errors that are supposed to be shown. Yeah, it didn't look like anything. Yeah, everything passed. Okay, great, cool. So yeah, basically now we have, I think, can we run standard on itself? Standard R, is it a bin folder? Oh, yeah, we should be able to just do run. Oh, okay. So, let's do /run. So we just do that. Is it going to run standard on? Oh, that was kind of anticlimactic. Oh, maybe the exe. Let's look in there. Ah, okay. Yeah, that's probably what I want. Okay, so if we did exe, I want to see the little dots. Oh, that wasn't very good either. Do I need to tell it, oops, this path here? Oh, okay. Now I'm going to have to take a look at the, let's see what the read, we have the readme open here. Oh, can we do rig standard? I want to run standard on itself, which I know I did, but I don't remember how the heck I did it. Okay, so if we look at the exe, it's going to load the Ruby environment. Yeah, standard CLI. We shouldn't need any arguments, so I don't think. Yeah, because there is no, I took a look earlier and there is no like how to work with the contributions here. I see the README, but I don't see like a contributors file. Maybe that's something I should add. Okay. Yeah, there's a whole bunch of options you can pass. What if you just did SaturdayMP? Oh, okay. So that seemed to work. Fix file. Defaults to /. Do I need to do // because I want to be one up? Oh, no, I got a big fat error there. Oh, I have no idea what all that means. Is there an actual... Oh, there's a standard YAML file right here. Oh, the revision is 2.6. I guess I got version 3. It's just stuck with 2.6. Oh. It's just the tests. I can't remember. Does standard just not output anything? Is it different than Rubicon puts little dots. Maybe standard doesn't do that. It just puts an empty. I don't remember now. Let's introduce an error and let's see if it's actually running it. So if we go to the lib and then I should complain about that. Ah, okay, cool. So it just doesn't output anything. Okay, great. Standard is working. And if we did the standard fix, it should fix this for us. Yes, perfect. Okay. Great, so that's all good. So that's all working. So we have a development environment set up. So that's all good. So that's all set up for Docker. Now, one of the things is I have this Docker environment set up, but I don't want to. So if I go look at the last thing I'll show here before I think I end this video, is you can see that we have the 3 Docker files here. Now, I've tried to submit a Docker environment for standard in the past, but they just didn't want it. So they kind of like everyone can set up their own development environment however they want, Docker or whatever. So in this case, we don't want to commit these files, but we don't want to add them to the .gitignore globally. And I don't want to have to remember, like if I edit another file, like if I go back here and I edit this file, right, it's going to show up here. And then when I stage changes, I have to remember not to stage these 3, and I'm probably going to forget, and it's not going to be great. So, but I just recently learned a trick where you can ignore files locally without affecting without adding them to gitignore, right? So I don't want to add them to the gitignore file, but I need them. Oh, it doesn't show the git folder. Anyway, so if we go into the why doesn't Visual Studio show the .git folder? That's interesting. Huh, must be something that ignores it. Anyway, I want to go inside the .get. Okay, well now I'm curious. See, I like to use RubyMind more than Visual Studio Code, so this is interesting that the Visual Studio Code show .get folder. Oh, interesting. Okay. Oh, okay. Oh, okay. So it ignores. I just learned something new today. Preferences. Open settings JSON. What's the UI one? Oh, that's fine. Configure for excluding, for example, I kind of don't want any of these. Like, I don't mind them showing up in my... I just put false at the end? Is that what I'm supposed to do? Maybe I should open the JSON one, not the UI one. Okay, let's try that. What was it? Open settings. That's probably dangerous to edit that. Okay, so maybe I will. Okay, so I just have to put false and it just shows up. Cool. Alright, so now, there, we all learned something new today. Well, maybe you already knew that, but I didn't. Okay, so now in Git, if you go into here in this exclude file, this file is not actually committed to your Git repository, but you can add things here that you want to ignore locally. So like I want to ignore these three files, docker entry point.sh. There we go. So now we can ignore these two files. Now if we go back to here, ooh, this should, do I have to save this? Okay, now I'm super confused because if I go look here and Git Kraken, they're gone. If I get rid of Docker file and then I go back here, it appears. Okay. Maybe I just need to. Okay, I'll try closing Visual Studio and open it again. Well, that would be a real big disappointment if it didn't. Okay, yeah, I guess I just had to reopen it for it to take effect. There's probably, maybe I should have clicked this refresh. Yeah, now you can ignore files locally, and you'll notice even if I'm using another client, like it doesn't try to commit that exclude file. You know, if I do a git status, right, nothing changed. So, yeah, hopefully you all found that interesting. So that's basically how I set up an environment to work with an existing project like in our case, the standard Ruby library. And yeah, I think I'll wrap it up for today, and then I might record myself trying to investigate and fix that bug. I'll see if that turns out to be an interesting video or not. So again, if you do have any questions, feel free to reach out to me, or any feedback on this video. You thought it was great, you thought it was horrible, things I could improve, things I could do better. Just that's ask, A-S-K, at SaturdayMP.com, SaturdayMP.com. And I look forward to hearing from you. So feel free to also send me some questions too, if there's something you want me to expand upon or anything like that. I would love to hear from you. I guess preferably about programming, but you could also ask about being a software consultant. I'm happy to answer questions about that. And maybe some minor business or tax questions, stuff like that. Yeah, or even some other, I love playing board games, so you can ask me questions about board games. Or Warhammer 40K is also, I love the lore. I don't play that game as much anymore, but I love the lore for it. So, yeah, feel free to ask me any questions, but the ones I listed previously are probably the ones I'll give you correct answers for. Other questions, probably you'll just get my opinion, or we can Google it together. Anyway, I hope you all have a great rest of your day, and I'll chat with you later.